is Elizabeth Kisaaka, and I am a Ugandan, a member for Transform Africa, and I'm the one who's going to take you through this smooth ride with Iris. I'm really scared of saying her second name, surname, yeah, because I don't want to mispronounce it. Some people are scared of mispronunciation. But putting that aside, Iris is an Asian American, and she stays in Maryland, USA. And it's a privilege that she is our first guest of this talk show, of this interaction that we're going to have. So we're going to have a discussion with her. As you know, the topic was the state of climate crisis around the world, plus how to lay the mitigations. So I am really honored, and I'd like to welcome our president. He has logged in. This is Isaiah. He's the president of Transform Africa Uganda, and I'm really honored to be part of this journey with him. He gave me the opportunity to talk right now and be the host of this session. So as we're waiting for our guest, she is really a climate activist. I really love her. Let me say that. She has moved me she is a youth, let me say that. And the fact that she has a love for climate at such a young age is really, beautiful. Let me say that. She has been also named among the 100 change makers out of 38 countries, which is wow, So it's an honor to have her right now to come and talk to us in this topic. And her being the first guest is really beautiful, I would say that. So I am glad, I am honored, and I cannot wait for her to join the call. In the meantime, I would love to tell you about Transform Africa. Transform Africa is a non-profit NGO. Actually, let me say that. But we have started a podcast which is called Climate Change Awareness. Yes. Currently it's available on, yes, Iris has joined us, and I am very glad. Sorry. So I am so honored, I would say that. Sorry. Hello. Hi.
Hey, Cyrus, I'm here. Super excited.
Hello, how are you?
All right. It's early morning for me, and I'm excited to talk. How about you?
Oh, well, it's 5 p.m. this side. So, yeah, we can say that the sun is setting down, but we are very excited to have you on this, on this platform. Welcome. We are really honored that you took up this invitation.
Of course. Yeah, I'm really honored.
Yes. So you being the first guest of our show is actually a privilege to all of us. And I am Elizabeth Kisaaka, I would say that. But since this is your first time, and being given that this is Uganda, we are really again honored. We would love you to tell our viewers, the audience, who is Iris exactly?
Yeah, so I'm Iris. I'm 17. I'm from the United States. I've been a climate activist for about 3 years or so. I think, can't keep count. Yeah, and I started out in the climate movement as a local organizer with Sunrise Movement here in Howard County, Maryland, which is where I live in the United States. And currently I am very much involved on the international level with Fridays for Future Digital. That's how I know Isaiah from Fridays for Future Digital. Very involved with helping local groups create awesome digital campaigns. Yeah, and a lot.
Wow! I love that. The fact that
that's the most important stuff.
Yeah. Wow, I really love the fact that you're 17 and you have this strong love for climate change, which is really moving, because personally I'm 20 years and seeing you at that young age is really beautiful. But I wanted to ask, what drove you? Where did you get the interest into climate? Like, why of all things climate?
Yeah, so when I learned about it when I was in 3rd grade in school, just a little bit, I learned just a little bit about it from school, but it was enough for me to understand that, what we're doing to the planet is just absolutely horrible, and that the fossil fuel consumption and just our general consumption of our resources is absolutely, horrible, and it's causing this climate crisis that's not only affecting our planet, but is affecting other issues as well, and it's just making all of the issues we face as a collective humanity just that much greater. You know, like war is being exacerbated by the climate crisis, and so is inequality in so many ways. And it's also, you know, connected to other environmental issues as well, with, you know, loss of biodiversity and pollution. Yeah, and so, you know, I had, you know, some teachers, like in sixth grade, I was a science teacher who was very much passionate about plastic pollution, the climate crisis, and so I got involved in my school's green club, and, you know, started to do some stuff there, and then I went to a local green fair as I started to get more interested into like actually doing real stuff. You know, started to look at local events and went to some local events, and that's where I, you know, found out about a lot of different environmental groups, and especially climate action groups, and I got involved in those. And then I also went to the Youth Climate March, which was my first avenue into youth-led climate activism. And then through there, I, you know, got involved with Sunrise, and then I really started to organize the young people in my local community and try to build a movement there, and then take all of that up to the international level. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, you have moved me. I would say that because wow, that is something beautiful. Because personally, I have interest in speaking, and that's why I'm exercising it right now, and also climate. So speaking, climate, I think that if we all merge our, you know, our passions together, we can do something great in this world. So putting that aside, before we dive into the topic of the day, I would love to know, what challenges have you faced as a climate activist?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. I think that, you know, one of them is learning how to properly communicate the climate crisis to other people who may not understand it, and, like, you know, in a way that will get them to care and take action. Just because when I started out, you know, I didn't properly know how to do it. Sometimes it scared people away, and, you know, that would make me feel bad about myself. But, you know, over time, I properly learned how to communicate and not place my own self-esteem on how effective I am able to bring people into the movement. Yeah, just because, like, I felt like if someone didn't understand the urgency, then I was doing something wrong. But, you know, now I've realized that, that as climate activists, you know, we're all trying our best, and that just people are people. And, you know, some people will, you know, understand, some people won't. And that's the other thing, is that, like, you know, privilege can be a challenge in the climate movement, just because, yeah, a lot of people, on one hand, a lot of the people who are involved in the climate movement are very privileged, but also the people who care the least about the climate crisis are also very privileged. And so, like, privilege, you know, causes people to not see the urgency as much as they should. Yeah, and just you know, being able to, you know, you have to learn so much. When you get involved, you learn a lot of new things about how to talk to people, how to organize people, how to allocate your time, about policy and strategy and organizing events. It's a lot of stuff that you learn, and it's a really great experience. But, you know, also dealing with just the anxiety that, you know, can come from organizing for climate justice, just because you know, it can sometimes feel very despairing, just because we're, you know, in an uphill, you know, battle kind of thing. Just because, like, the world feels against us, but we're pushing very hard in the right direction as much as possible. And yeah, it's really important to have, you know, good community and good friends to keep you motivated.
Yeah. So basing on the first point that you gave us, saying that people do not understand the meaning of climate crisis, and also due to the topic that we have today, I would love you to explain to us, in your own perspective, what is climate crisis, what causes it, and what are the effects, according to you?
Yeah, so the climate crisis, you know, is a culmination of how our use of fossil fuels and other, you know, polluting resources, you know, such as animal agriculture, also plays a part. And our waste consumption also plays a part in contributing to the climate crisis, but it's mostly, you know, fossil fuels. But how all of these, you know, together, you know, come together to, you know, exacerbate the, to create, to warm up the planet. And, you know, that causes, you know, a lot of inequality and furthers, the division that we have in this world, and is causing a lot of harm to marginalized communities and to many ecosystems across the world. Yeah, and that it's very much intersected with other big issues that we have, and how if we don't get this climate crisis right, like nothing else matters, just because of how existential it is, because it has that deadline, and before it becomes irreversible. I mean, a lot of it is already becoming irreversible with the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that we're trapping in the atmosphere, but there is still some time to reverse as much of it as possible, and that's what we're really fighting against time at this point.
Yeah.
And trying to move our world from an extractive economy to a circular and sustainable world, where we're not extracting resources and exploiting the people and the planet at the same time, where we're able to liberate and support all people and all ecosystems and creatures of this world.
Yeah, talking about the point that where you said it's irreversible, like where we can actually reverse some of the things that we have done that have caused climate crisis. How best do you think that we can reduce, the effect of the fast growing rate of climate crisis in the world, basically as the youth?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that needs to be done, just because I think people don't realize how much across the world and in our lives, carbon emissions and other greenhouse gas emissions are being emitted into the air, and just because it's so ingrained in our lives that we don't even realize it, in the way that everything is powered, in order to ship things across the world, and in order to produce things, all of that needs energy, and sometimes we forget that, and all of that energy really needs to be powered in a sustainable way and in an equitable way. And yeah, so we really need to stop, using fossil fuels, just because, in such a climate emergency that we're facing right now, with just the extreme heat and the extreme wildfires and extreme flooding and everything that's a result of the climate crisis. Those extreme weather events, they're becoming more common, and scientists are saying that they are very, very much connected to the climate crisis. It's very important to stop using fossil fuels and to really switch over to a world where we can all have access to sustainable energy and sustainable resources, and where the most affected communities that are affected by climate disasters and pollution are able to seek justice, just because there's a lot of injustice that comes from the climate crisis, and it's very important that transitioning to a sustainable world that everyone is able to benefit, because when everyone's able to benefit, we are truly sustainable. Yeah.
So as we are, I would love to ask you, what advice would you give a youth that is interested in changing, the current climate crisis? Like, what piece of advice would you give them right now?
Yeah, I think it really depends on who you are, where you where you live, and your background. Just because everyone's climate experience is very different, and it's very important to acknowledge that it's not one size fits all. And I think it's really important to of course get involved, and there's many different ways to get involved. Like the ways that I've chosen to get involved is very different from other people, and like there's a lot of different ways, and sometimes people can feel discouraged if like one way doesn't fit for them. You just kind of got to keep searching for that way that fits you, and yeah, it's really important, to figure out the different ways that you can contribute, to the climate movement, and, to find a community of people who have that niche. Just that's really important for collaboration and impact and motivation, and
Yeah.
it's really important. Yeah.
So I love the fact that you said someone has to find that what they are best in. Like personally, I told you I'm good at speaking, and I love the fact that on your page you're using TikTok. The fact
Yeah.
you use or the TikTok, and you can, as you're scrolling through the thing, you're thinking like, oh, okay, you're actually making like climate awareness on TikTok, and this is such a nice initiative. And I feel like I wish other people would actually pick a leaf, because it's a fun way of doing something that some people may consider dull, but you actually make it very interesting. And the fact that I actually like the video that you posted, I think yesterday, it was so creative. I
Yes,
really love your
thank you.
creativity. I'll
Thank
personally
you.
tell you that I really love your creativity, and I feel like this is a thing that you're going to tell. If anyone is listening in right now, find something that you are good at and use it to an advantage to make it as a climate awareness. Like,
Yes.
yeah. So personally, I'm using media because we have a podcast. We're using IG Live. We are using YouTube. So as people can actually, the fact that all the youth are like on their phones all the time. So that's what you're trying to do as a source from Africa, to use media as a way to reach out to various youth. But this is a really, really nice conversation I've had with you. And I would love you to tell, what are your closing remarks? Because personally, I really loved knowing a little bit about you, because you're 17 and you're one of the 100 change makers from 38 countries featured in a book, and there's a lot that you have done. Considering the fact that I don't know what you do when you're my age. I feel like you overpower me at this stage. But I'm really glad that I've got to know you. But what would you love to tell the people of Transform Africa and also Uganda at large today, and also the world, because I believe everyone is listening in?
Yeah. There's I'm trying to think of, what is, the most important, thing to tell people, just because, there's a lot of things that you can tell people. But I just really want to see, more people engaged and involved in the climate movement, just because I feel like in a very, divisive world, I think that the climate crisis is something that, can bring us together. And of course, there's, still a lot of, division that prevents us, from uniting around the climate crisis. And so I think it's really important for people to find that common ground with the climate crisis. And to, be able to really understand the urgency, just because even though I feel like climate crisis is, like the, most unifying issue, just because, who can say no to protecting our planet and our people. I just think that more people need to, be, to feel more, to really feel the urgency, and to really, see this as something that's happening right now, especially in Uganda, and especially in the African continent, is most affected by the climate crisis. Definitely, more than the United States. And the United States is, very much contributed a lot to the climate crisis, and we have to do our part to really to take climate action, just because it's not fair for places in Uganda and other African countries, that contribute the least, but suffer the worst. I think it's really important for more people to understand that, and to get involved in in climate action.
Thank you so much for this. We have really been enriched by you, and you taking off your time to actually come to our show today. It's actually a privilege. We are so honored, first of all, as Transform Africa and Elizabeth. And Isaiah, actually, our president, has been listening in, as we are going to become the change makers right now for climate, especially in Uganda. And we hope that currently we are in lockdown, so the best that we can do is use media as a way to, for climate awareness. So we hope by the end of our lockdown, everyone, at least when we will go back to school, everyone can join us. And as you said, a unifying thing, climate crisis is a unifying thing. So I hope everyone else can plant a tree, at least at their home, or do something, recycle. There are very many things that people can do. And which basic things would you tell people to do, actually? Like, people think climate awareness is like big, but I feel like there's something like recycling, you can plant a tree. Which other things would you tell them to do as a way of conserving the climate?
Yeah,
right now?
I think that there's actually like, really a lot of, things that you can do, within your local community. There's a lot of, different options depending on, what your niche is. I mean, personally for me, I, got involved, through, organizing, some advocacy events to, help, get people to switch to solar, in their personal homes, but also, as well as, organize protests and have visits with politicians, about climate legislation, and also, organizing, certain, summits and trainings to increase the education, and skills of young people in my school, is another thing. There's just a lot of different options, but it's, very important, to take, individual actions beyond the individual, and to, create collective actions that, can target, the most in, the most important, people that we need to target, are politicians and the polluters who are, contributing to this climate crisis. And, yeah, it really depends on, the politics of your region, and, targeting companies who are, causing pollution and such, and just really supporting groups and campaigns who are doing the hard work. We really need the support, and that can, really help, whether that be on social media, or, participating in actions through our campaigns, or, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking off your time. I know it's very early in the morning that side. And I think this is the end of our show. I would love to say thank you so much for taking off your time once more. And yeah, that's what I would say. Thank you so much again for taking off your time. I think this is the end of the show. And I hope you have a blessed morning. Have a nice day.
I hope you have a blessed day. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good one.
Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye.